If you're looking for ideas for quick and cheap sewing projects that make great gifts, then this episode is for you. And if there is a maker in your life that you'd like to buy something special for, or people are asking for gift ideas that they can get for you, Grace from Beyond Measure talks me through some of the beautiful and useful items that she sells that might fit the bill. So stick around a few minutes for this episode of Two Halves. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 15 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular Handmade Wardrobe Challenge We Made May. But, like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis and the way that my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. How are you doing today, lovely listener? I'm chilly but good. As soon as I get this intro recorded, I'm going to make the most of the fact that it's not slashing down with rain today, and I'm going to go into my garden and sow my broad beans and possibly my garlic bulbs. Are you sewing anything at the moment or doing any other kind of making? If you celebrate Christmas and feel like you want to make some presents for your loved ones, do you have any plans for that yet? If not, this episode is going to give you some ideas. Since the last episode, I've finished up the blouse that I was making as a pattern tester. I love the outcome, thankfully. The pattern is the Amalfi blouse by Sewing Patterns by Mason. And if you go to their Instagram account, you can see a sneaky peek of it. And I've been making yet more items to sell at this craft fair that I keep banging on about. This week I've been using up some special bits of woven fabric to make some purses. Sustainability-wise, I guess my main efforts this week have been leading from the whole change of schools thing that I told you about last week. I've actually been distributing all the clothing that my kids no longer need. I guess a sustainability fail of sorts is that one of the pairs of joggers that I bought for my daughter to wear for PE that I got via Vinted didn't show up, despite being marked as delivered. Plus, I left it too late to raise it as an issue, so I think I'm going to have to write those off, annoyingly. Oh, and I got into some weird comment row with a seller because some of the items I ordered also for my daughter arrived, but they were really smelly. Anyway, it's been one of those you win some, you lose some weeks, to be honest. I think I'm going to step away from Vinted for a while. This week, I get to thank two wonderful new patrons, May and Grace, for signing up to support the podcast with monthly donations. And I get to thank two existing patrons, Teresa and Janine, who very kindly chose to up the amount of the support that they give. I am so grateful to all four of you. If you enjoy this podcast, including the fact that it is ad-free, please consider helping me to keep it going in these tricky financial times. You can sign up for any amount that you wish. Any contribution will be a big help. The link to do so is in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. Right, today's episode, all about gifts. Obviously, I've timed it to coincide with Christmas, but all the project ideas and the items that I talk about with Grace would make fantastic gifts for all occasions all year round. If you're a hardcore Check Your Thread fan, the first half may be familiar to you, as it's actually a replay of an episode I made 2 years ago. But the ideas and projects are all still some of my very faves to make for others, so I didn't see any point in remaking the episode, to be honest. The second part is a recording of a conversation that I had with Grace Hooell, who you might have heard me talk to in episode 59. I visited her gorgeous shop in Yorkshire in the summer, and we wandered around talking about a lot of the beautiful and useful items for makers that she sells. Obviously, an episode about particular projects and products is tricky in a non-visual format. However, I have added links to every pattern, tutorial and project that I mentioned in the first half and everything Grace and I discussed from her shop in the second half, including a bunch of pictures. They're in the show notes, which you can find on checkyourthread.com. So if you haven't heard it already, make sure you queue up episode 59, Tools for Life with Grace Hooell, where you can learn more about Grace and her fantastic business and listen to that after this one. Until next week, take care of yourself and enjoy. Before I get stuck into all the project ideas I want to share, I need to make the following statement. I only condone making presents for anyone if you absolutely want to, not because you think you should. And only if the recipient has a history of appreciating handmade items and values your time and skills. If the proposed recipient is a child, then I only condone making them gifts if their grown-up has a history of that. Okay? Cool. A handmade present can consist of anything, of course. If you want to go all out to make something super special for someone that is really time consuming or costs loads in materials, then that is totally up to you. What I'm talking about today is ideas for makers who are busy but want to flex their sewing skills to make a gift or two without it taking an age or costing a mint. All these ideas should take 2 to 3 hours maximum to make, depending on your level of sewing experience or how speedy you are. So theoretically, each of these projects could be made in an evening. They should cost you very little too. A lot of these projects use patterns or tutorials that are free, and pretty much all of them can be made from scraps or leftover fabric or even unwanted clothing. To get through these ideas with some kind of logic, I've split them up into 4 groups: gifts for makers, simple accessories and clothing, homeware, and gifts for kids. All the projects mentioned will be linked in the show notes, which are available on the website checkyourthread.com. So there's no need to scrabble around to find a pen whilst you're listening to this episode. Okay, let's get started. I don't know about you, but almost without exception, my favourite people to make stuff for are other makers. Even if their crafty discipline isn't sewing, they understand the skill and time that goes into making stuff, and they really treasure the item that you've made them. People who make have many facets of their lives, of course, so would appreciate items from the other categories too. However, here are some ideas for gifts that you could make for a maker to help them with their making. So a tool roll might be a cool gift for all sorts of makers. You could make them to contain various tools, including paintbrushes, knitting needles, crochet hooks, ceramic carving tools, lino cutting tools, and many more. You'd need a small amount of medium weight woven fabric, for example denim or canvas. I found a great easily adaptable free tutorial by the Book Hut. A lovely bag to contain their project and equipment might be a really thoughtful gift for a maker as well. And it might stop your crafty friend from carrying their knitting project around in an old plastic bag. The Stow Bag pattern by Grainline Studios is a paid-for pattern that looks like a great stash buster, and it comes in 2 sizes. That could be excellent for keeping knitting, crochet, embroidery type projects in. And you could make it even more quickly by skipping the interior pockets. There are, of course, heaps of different bag and pouch tutorials out there that might be more suitable for the maker in your life, depending on the size, shape and volume of their equipment for projects. For crafts that involve messy stuff, consider sourcing some waterproof fabric or vinyl. There are so many different waterproof fabrics available for home sewers these days, and you probably only need to source a small piece. Alternatively, you can get fun printed vinyl type stuff that's usually meant for covering tables from homeware and hardware shops that are usually sold by the meter. If the person that you're making for is a sewer, it could be a great opportunity to make them some lovely items to level up their sewing game, whether they're a beginner or they've been at it for a while. The quickest project would probably be a pincushion. There are hundreds of tutorials out there, from simple square baby pillows to ones that are shaped like animals or apples or something. You could make one that has an elastic strap attached so that it can be worn on the wrist. That might be really useful. Sewers might also appreciate a thread catcher or a thread bin that can hang just below the sewing machine, or a simple apron with pockets for their pattern cutting and marking tools perhaps. Okay, so simple accessories and basic clothing are usually really fun to make for other people and can easily be tailored to their tastes and requirements. I've mentioned hats, particularly bucket hats, before in episode 6 as one of my very favourite uses for scraps and leftover fabric. A bucket hat pattern can become a sun hat when made in woven cotton or linen, a rain hat when made in something waterproof or at least splash-proof on the outside, or even an on-trend fluffy winter hat if you make it in Sherpa or some sort of sheepskin-looking fabric. There are so many adult and kids-sized patterns out there. The Sorrento bucket hat is by LB Textiles, and that's a low-cost pattern that raises money for good causes. Plus, there's the Sandcastle bucket hat, which is a free pattern by Waves and Wild that includes kids' sizes also. The Oliver & S bucket hat pattern is probably my favourite for kids because it's got a really nice oval shape to it. A small amount of fantastic fabric can look really impactful when made into a simple bag. For example, there's the Autumn Bag tutorial, which is free and available from Merchant & Mills. Plus, you can buy ready-made handles to make it even more fancy and even quicker to make. I made a couple of these from some ripstop fabric for myself and a friend that I used to share an allotment with, and we used them for taking our tools down to the plot-in and then bringing back any veg we dug up. Another fab looking one that I want to try is the By Tilly pattern from By Grazila Fabrics. It's a sweet shopper style that's got like knotted handles and needs about 1 metre of 2 different fabrics. It's also reversible, which is fabulous if you're not sure which fabric your recipient will prefer. Simple pouches and cases of various types go down very well and usually just require a zip and not very much fabric. There are hundreds of patterns and tutorials out there, so I haven't linked to any specifically, but pretty much everyone needs a case or container of some description for their belongings, whether that be a pencil case or a makeup case, a jewellery case, or something for keeping medicines together when you travel and so on. A handmade case or pouch can also be combined with another little gift like a couple of nice new pens, or if it's intended to be a makeup case, you could whip up some of those reusable makeup remover pads, or maybe make a nice hair scrunchie to add to it. Speaking of which, I love making a few hair scrunchies when I'm in a pinch for a gift for someone with long hair. Melly Sews has a great tutorial if you're not sure where to start. There are, of course, heaps of other types of hairbands you can make from woven or knit fabric scraps also. Even if they're not the recipient's style as such, they can be so useful for keeping your hair out of your face. One of my absolutely favourite things to make for pretty much anyone of any age or gender is mittens. And you can make those out of unwanted knitwear, especially ones that have been slightly felted in the wash, or even some that have had moth holes and you can kind of cut around those bits. I've made so many pairs of mittens using a pattern that I bought from Etsy from about 10 years ago. They're double layered, so warmer than any other mittens I've ever worn. I can't find that exact pattern anymore that I have, but I'll link to one in the show notes that's very similar and comes in multiple adult and kid sizes. If you know the rough size of the person you're wanting to sew for and you have a larger piece of fabric available, making a simple garment might prove an impressive present. The Mandy Boat Tee, for example, is a free pattern that's by Tezuti for 31-inch bust to 45-inch bust, and it's a really wearable boxy style knit top. I haven't tried it, but the Lunar Tank pattern by Helen's Closet, which is another free one, could be a good option for someone to wear in warmer weather. It's a flowy knit vest or tank top that is graded up to a 60-inch bust. Or if you have some nice flowy woven fabric in your stash, a skirt using the Dominique pattern by Tilly and the buttons would pack a real punch as a gift, but not actually take very long to make. And finally in this category, if someone you know is still wearing disposable face masks or their reusable face masks are looking a bit tatty by now, making them a couple of new fun face masks might be a really thoughtful gift. So the third category of speedy gifts is items to make for someone's home. So like accessories and simple clothing, homeware items are equally customisable to the taste and style of the recipient. And arguably, homeware items are even more fun to make because you can potentially be freer and bolder with your style and fabric choices because you're not effectively asking the person to walk around with the item on their body in public. It's a great opportunity to raid your stash for forgotten lengths of fabric, colourful scraps or even unwanted garments and reimagine them as items for around the home. So here's some specific project ideas. So cushions. Buy a basic cushion pad, then make a simple cushion cover the same size and ta-da! Lovely gift. The cover can be made out of pretty much any fabric that feels okay to lean against. You really only need a small amount and it's super easy to match something with someone's style. The special fabric can be just on the front with a plain back if you're limited in quantity. It could be wild and jazzy or super simple and minimalist, retro or vintage or anything at all. But if you don't have anything suitable that's big enough, you can do some really simple piecing together of a few coordinating scraps. And unwanted garments can look amazing as cushion covers. Think about using unwanted knitwear for cosy textures or think about button-up shirts including the buttons and button stands for a really fun look. For the simplest, quickest finish, go for an overlapped envelope back. Or if you want to get fancier, you could use a zip, buttons, press studs or Velcro if you wish. So square cushions are obviously the easiest to make, but you could try to make some other simple shapes like raindrops or clouds, especially if you're making them for a kid's room. The less glamorous cousin of the cushion project could be a simple draft excluder. So that's something that sits on the floor at the bottom of a door to prevent drafts. You could even use scrap fabrics to stuff it so it's even cheaper and relies on less virgin materials to produce. I've personally never made one, but fabric storage baskets look really effective and look pretty quick to make as well. They would be so useful for tidying desks, side tables, bedside tables, craft areas, or for storing TV remotes or phone chargers or whatever. And like cushions, they could be bold and bright or super simple and understated and everything in between, depending on fabric choice. I'd recommend that you do an online search for ideas and find a tutorial because there are loads out there. Personally, I really like the ones that are made from old jeans. There are heaps of ideas for kitchen-related gifts to whip up also. I've mentioned aprons before in the gifts ideas for makers, but a great-looking apron for someone who enjoys cooking is a really thoughtful gift. If they've already got an apron, it's possible that their current one is looking a bit grubby, so a new one could be a welcome upgrade. There are heaps of free apron tutorials out there, but a couple of lovely paid-for patterns include the apron pattern by Tazuti that has a cool tunic crossback style, and the Workaday pattern by Merchant & Mills. I've mentioned this project recently, but oven mitts are a great and very useful scrap busting present. I've recently tested and reviewed the free oven mitt pattern by Bombazine, which I really love. And pot holders are a variation on the oven mitt that you might prefer to make. So sticking with the food theme, for a table, a simple set of matching cloth napkins might elevate someone's meal times. You just need about 1 metre of soft woven cotton or linen fabric, and you cut it into squares and hem around the edges. If your sewing machine can do some fancy stitches, this could be a good opportunity to play with those whilst hemming the sides. Making placemats could also be a nice option. You could make them rectangular or circular or anything your heart desires, I guess. One final food-related project I saw recently was some awesome fabric bowl covers. There's a free tutorial by Hearth and Vine. So these are a washable, reusable alternative to cling film or foil for covering food in the fridge or to keep insects off when you're eating outside. Okay, if there are any kids in your life that you'd normally buy a gift for, then there are loads of quick projects that you could whip up for them instead. I'm going to link in the show notes to a blog post that I wrote called 40 Free Sewing Patterns for Gifts for Kids that includes a lot of the patterns and tutorials I'm going to mention here, but there are lots more, so it's worth having a look for further ideas. So making clothes for kids is lots of fun for those of us who sew, but let's be honest, unless the fabric you are choosing has a print of their favourite cartoon characters or favourite animal on, for the child, opening a gift that is an item of clothing can be a bit of a disappointment. If you have decided to make them a garment anyway and need to buy fabric to make it with, there are a heap of incredible printed fabrics out there these days, both on woven and knit bases, that kids will love. And if you do choose to go down that route, you can still do some stash or scrap busting by buying a small amount of the new fabric and combining it with contrasting solid fabric. You could apply the printed fabric just to the front of a t-shirt or sweatshirt, for example, or just on the pockets of some shorts perhaps. I mentioned some great sewing patterns for kids in episode 6 of this podcast, which is about my favourite scrap busting projects. Plus I'll link to a blog post that I wrote about free sewing patterns for kids if you're looking for some budget-friendly suggestions. There are so many things that you can make for kids to play with that are quick and cheap. Fancy dress items such as capes, character face masks, crowns and so on are easy to make and can even be personalised to include the child's initials if you have some extra time. So you could take inspiration from generic themes like superheroes, animals, pirates, monsters, dinosaurs, wizards, magicians, astronauts, doctors, kings and queens, fairy tales and so on. But finding out what types of games and books and so on are the kids' current favourites will increase the chances of the item seeing lots of use. If the kid in question is obsessed with farmers, for example, you could run with that. My son is currently really into the idea of dressing up as a giant snail for some reason. So it might be something that you literally have not even thought of. Remember, kids have fantastic imaginations, so you really don't need to go to town and make a really detailed or highly accurate look for a costume item to help them in their role play. If you're looking for some specific tutorials, here are a few free options that I found that might start you off. There's a simple but effective Batman costume tutorial by Fleece Fun, a lovely pom-pom tutu skirt tutorial by Brit & Co, and a dress-up apron by It's Always Autumn, which can be made to look like various princesses depending on which colours and details you pick, and that's sized for 2 to 8 years old. Some other play items could be a little apron and or an oven mitt for playing cooking games. As a basis, you could use the Easy Apron tutorial by Scattered Thoughts of a Crafty Mum, which the child could of course use for actual cooking projects as well. And Made for Mermaids has a free pattern for a kiddie oven mitt. And if you know the dimensions of their favourite soft toy, A basic little sleeping bag that they can put their toy to bed in can be a lovely thing to give. There are many accessories that you can make for kids also that can be fun and useful at the same time. I've included lots of those in the 40 free sewing patterns for gifts for kids blog post. In there's cute and simple drawstring backpacks, pencil rolls, characterful shoulder bags, headbands, bow ties, beanie hats, zip purses and more. Personally, if I ever have to make a little gift for a child with long hair, I usually just make 3 scrunchies from pretty fabric scraps and call it a day. So gift wrapping! So whether you've decided to make a gift or buy one, consider reusable wrapping options. The easiest option would be to simply wrap the gift in a piece of nice fabric or a scarf or something and tie it up with a length of ribbon. Only marginally more involved, but arguably slightly more elevated, could be to emulate the Japanese furoshiki wrapping cloth techniques. I'll add a link in the show notes. Something a bit more time consuming than those to make but will save you time at the wrapping stage could be to make reusable gift bags by using a drawstring bag tutorial. If you batch sew a load in a variety of sizes, that could sort you out for wrapping for yonks. And then hopefully the recipients will use them again when they have a gift to give to somebody, hopefully saving lots of single-use wrapping in the future. If you have any quick, simple or cheap project ideas that you like to use for making gifts, please let me know. You can do that via Instagram or email, and then we can do a follow-up episode in the future. So do you find what is more popular at the shows is different to what's more popular in your shop, to what's more popular on your website?
It really varies a lot. So there's things that we sell online. So, I mean, everything more or less is online apart from like odd bits that maybe don't always make it to the website.
Sure. Well, if you've only got a few, it's not really necessarily worth taking the photos and stuff,
exactly.
Is it?
So, but most things now I try and get online but things like, the Sarah Young tea towels that we sell. So when I do a show, they just fly out because everyone can see them. They're on the wall. They can see the scale and how they make up.
Sure.
And even though we do have that online to some extent, it doesn't seem to come across the same online. And there's some things that sell really well across the board, like the sashiko threads are really popular and have been sort of since I got them in, really, and they're kind of still growing.
I've never seen such a wide variety of colours.
Yeah, I mean, we do have more than that as well, and we have skeins of longer threads, so I've got to put in an order after I did the Festival of Quilts, because they just fly out at shows as well.
Yeah, do they? Oh, yeah. That's really interesting.
So we do, I just do one brand, which is Daruma, and I do...
They've got every colour under the sun.
Yeah, and all these kind of lovely sort of variegated colours that sew really well.
These are so pretty.
Yeah. Mandy, she has done some samples, I'll show you. So she's really got really into it. Aww. I'm still quite slow at it. I'm just slow at everything. And
well, that's the point.
She's got really
mindful making or mindful mending.
But these that we sell here in the little packs.
Oh, are they like little patterns?
So they're pre-printed patterns.
Oh, how cute!
I know.
The little houses.
Where's the other one? There's like a Space Invader. That's a new one.
Oh, that's adorable.
Sweets. So these ones, they make up into this size, which is...
Oh, so do you get the fabric in there?
Yeah. So what you do is you get the fabric, which is pre-printed.
Oh.
With the pattern. And it's like based on a fukin, which is like a Japanese kind of cloth, household cloth. It's kind of used for lots of different purposes.
Right.
And the lines are printed on. We haven't washed this one. I think she's finished it.
So when
you follow the lines to start you, and although it's like a star pattern, you're working in
clever
zigzags.
You're doing zigzags.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really clever.
And then that's the back. But when you've washed it off,
and then the lines disappear.
Yeah. So that one hasn't been washed, but some of them, I'll show you the ones in here. This is where all the chaos is.
Show me the behind the scenes chaos. Oh, it's disgusting. It's not disgusting at all. It's lovely.
I'm very kind of messy. I've always been like...
This is not messy.
No, but like quite chaotic. I get things out and leave them. I'm like that at home.
That's a creative brain.
Yeah, I know. So that's what it sounds
These are lovely.
So these are ones that she used a lot. She bakes them for her daughters, and they use them like at the table and stuff.
Yeah. So then you could use them as napkins or to have like a plant on or placemats.
So those ones come with like one pre-printed design on, and there's two sort of ranges. These are like the more sort of traditional sashiko designs, and then these ones are called hitomizashi, which are basically one stitch designs. So you're stitching just lines that kind of intersect, and then as you go one way, then the other way, and then sometimes you go diagonal, and then that creates the pattern.
Cool.
And then we also sell larger pieces, which are like a grid piece. So I did do this one. I did finish it, which is
such a lovely space you've got.
Oh,
it's like a sampler.
It's called Sashiko Lab. She's based in Kyoto and she teaches Sashiko in Japan.
Yeah.
So every day you get an email with a pattern on it.
Oh.
And actually I put it on upside down, but you start like with the basics.
Right.
And then these ones, this row.
Oh yeah, I can see how that would translate to that.
Exactly.
To that. Yeah.
You kind of miss out bits or add extra ones. So, and then that's on a grid, and again then you wash it.
Oh, cool.
And it disappears.
So they're popular
They kind of start
across the board.
Yeah, so they're really popular. Needles, there's a load of needles, pins, scissors.
Like hand needles?
Yeah, all the. So I mainly sell the tulip ones, which I don't know if you've ever used those.
I've seen them.
Really sort of well regarded, particularly by people who do like embroidery.
These are such a lovely gift
pins
as
are
well.
amazing. Like I've honestly, the first time I used pins, I was like, oh my god, they're so smooth.
Oh really?
And sharp. And
I think that it would just throw all my other pins into stark relief as being.
It does. Like I was like, oh my
awful.
god, it's just like an eye opener. So I sell loads of those. Like at the Festival of Quilts, I think someone had mentioned in one of the classes at the show in the morning that the pins were great, and then everyone just came and bought the pins one morning, and I was like wiped out.
When they say they're made of cellulose, what does that mean?
So the top bit on those ones is made of cellulose, which is, they do different ones. They do glass-headed ones with like a traditional round head. So those are like little tulips.
Yeah.
So that bit is cellulose. It's not plastic.
Right.
So it's kind of
so it's derived from something.
Yeah, it's plant. It's actually kind of, cellulose is like plant derived, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Would they biodegrade then?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure they would. I can check that out though. But
because these would be such a lovely gift as well for somebody, wouldn't they?
And they're amazing. Like they do a pink one which I've sold out of. And, they're extra fine. So if you're doing like silks, really fine fabrics, they're just gorgeous.
Oh, they are delightful.
I mean, these are the sort of standard one they do.
Oh yeah,
but you know, you can run it through some fabric. And then they do.
I love these little starhead ones.
Yeah, those are Kahana. So Kahana, do you know Kahana brand?
No.
So Kahana are.
Oh, look how pretty!
They came out just after I'd started, and I found them, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Extreme haberdashery, but what they do is
beauty.
They work with different Japanese kind of specialists and manufacturers.
Oh,
so all their products are made in different areas. So, like in Japan, they traditionally have sort of ceramic towns or steel towns, a bit like you know we don't like Sheffield or whatever. So, a lot of the pins are made in Hiroshima, and there's places that specialise in ceramics or wooden boxes. The little
they're too cute,
teeny ones. Those are based on Japanese rice boxes, which are used to store like dry goods and rice.
Yeah.
Normally they're like a decent size, but
they've
they've kind of adapted it.
They're 1.5 centimetres by 1.5 centimetres.
So they there's the silk braided snips, so they're hand braided.
Oh wow!
So it's just like the most kind of beautiful things, but also using traditional techniques. So those are like the cast iron.
Oh, pattern.
You know,
weights.
like the teapots that you get that are cast iron. So it's the same sort of manufacturer and process.
These are stunning. What's this?
So that's got a little magnet in it, and you can rest your needle on it. But it's also, I'll show you this one.
So it's like a little pin tidy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But, I like your jacket.
Thank you. I made it myself.
Inside it's hollow and it's got like abrasive powder, so you can sharpen your pins and needles.
What?
I know. So they're just.
Oh my goodness!
That one's a little magnet as well. And
so what are these called? That's
Kahana.
No, this.
Oh, that one's called. I think it's kind of like a needle keeper, needle minder.
Right. That's amazing. So you can actually sharpen your pins.
Yeah.
Your post guys come.
Oh, it's all right. They just collect it. So yeah, loads of the Japanese stuff sells well. The scissors that we have.
These, the little tiny
they're really popular.
They're too cute.
drop-cloth samplers. They're really popular.
Yeah.
Sell loads of those. I don't know if anyone else sells them in the UK at the moment. But these
Where
are
are they
people
from then?
from the US.
Oh, right.
So Rebecca, who designs them, is a textile artist. And I first saw her work in an exhibition in the Netherlands, actually, and then realised what she did as a kind of sideline. This is when I first started, and then I've been stocking them since then. But she's got a bit of a kind of cult following with embroiderists, whatever you call them. So, like the original one, she designed to teach her own classes.
Oh, cool.
You just get the printed piece inside. Some of them have colour on them printed,
right?
Like that one has just that sort of printed around the edge.
Right.
A lot of them are black and white. So you can either use them to practice stitches, or some of them are completely sort of freestyle. You can just do your own thing.
Oh, wow.
So they're really popular.
You're kind of at the cross section of a lot of different crafts,
Yeah,
aren't you?
I think when I started, I've always done a bit of everything myself, really.
Yeah.
So it just was things that I was naturally drawn to and interested in, I suppose.
Yeah. So do you get many garment sewers in?
Yeah, it's a real mixture of people, and quite often it is people who do little bits of everything, which is quite nice. But yeah, we get a lot of garment sewers, a lot of people who do embroidery or textile, sort of mixed media kind of textiles, things like that. We just get people popping who are kind of curious, which is quite nice. Sometimes they kind of go, they're a bit disappointed. I think it's not kind of what they expect, like a sewing shop. They think it's like a sewing shop.
Right, okay.
Or that
they're expecting bolts of fabric.
Yeah, or people ask us if we do alterations. That's the main thing.
Oh, so they think...
I don't know if you get... Well, you don't have... It's not like that at Fabric Godmother, is it?
No, it's not open to the public,
We get that all the time. Yeah, and a couple of other things we have which are kind of exclusives, like Louisa's book, which was kind of through your podcast.
Oh, yes, Louisa Owen Sonstrom's book, there it is.
Have you seen it? Have you got a copy?
No.
Well, you can have a look.
I will.
We don't have any at the moment because we've sold out. Every time we get them in, they just sell out.
Do they? Well, that's fantastic. Do they tend to sell in shop, at the shows, online?
When we get them in, they tend to sell out pretty quickly online.
Yeah. Within the UK or Europe?
Europe as well, because I don't think she really sends them herself outside.
Yeah. It's a lovely book, and the fact that it's spiral bound, so you can open it on the page and then you've got your hands free.
I think
fantastic.
The fact, and there's lots of lovely stories about how she got into it and how she times it, which is really interesting. How she times how much she's working on a project and compared that with if you were doing it by machine.
Yeah,
and actually found the difference wasn't huge because you spend the same sort of amount of time as prepping and cutting out.
Yeah,
and the actual sewing, once you kind of get into it.
And also what she was saying as well is like when you're hand sewing, you have more opportunities to sew.
Exactly. You can just shove it in your bag and take it with you.
I could have taken, for this trip, I could have taken a sewing project if I'd kind of been that organised.
Well, we always have loads of other things to
So have you tried making a garment?
I haven't. Again, it's something that I did speak to Louisa about it, and she's been on maternity leave for quite a while. I don't know if you know, but
no, I didn't know.
She had a baby last year,
so
she's been quite sort of preoccupied with that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I would really like to do something and maybe do a really simple top. So we do the 100 Acts of Sewing by Sonia Phillip.
Yeah.
So like the shirt number 1 is one that I wear quite a lot.
Yeah, I've heard of lots of people really loving it.
Yeah, so I thought maybe I could try that.
Beautiful. This book is beautiful.
Like you say, it's kind of, if I had it, I'd probably just take it with me and sit at home and do it in the evening, or sit outside.
How special though to have a handmade one. You should do it.
Yeah, I definitely should, and also because I know that shirt fits me. It's something you can just do without.
Yeah. You don't want to be making something that needs to be twirled, I think.
With lots of pieces. So
you've got some beautiful awls.
Yeah, those are from Japan.
They are stunning.
So there is a kind of focus on natural materials with the tools, really, where possible. Those are my stitch rippers, which are really popular.
Beautiful.
Wheels, different tracing wheels, scoring wheels.
These are lovely. I love an awl. My awl's really fun.
I've got 3 different ones.
Have you? Never enough awls.
In fact, I've got another option to go on the website as well. Books I started selling. Well, I'd always sold the line of books and magazines, kind of from when they started. So that was 2016, I think. So the year after I started. But I didn't really sell many of the books because I was I was like, oh, everyone's just going to go and buy them on Amazon, aren't they? But actually, they don't. And I sell loads of books now. And
I think
brilliant.
Those kind of books are the ones that you want to have a quick flick through, don't you?
Yeah.
Before you commit. Because
Yeah.
if you're not into the vibe, then it's going to be useless to you, isn't it?
Well, I do try and put on my listings, I take photos of the contents, which gives people an idea of what's inside. Because, you know, if it's project-based, and there's 12 projects, you might want to see what they all are before you spend that money.
Absolutely. So you do have yarn as well, I see.
I do have a little bit.
And it's made in Yorkshire.
Well, yes, and it's recycled.
Oh!
So it's made out of recycled garments.
Is it?
So
it's 95% wool.
Yeah.
And
so they
5%
can only
other fibres.
They can only say it's 95% wool because they can't guarantee, because it's recycled, what 100% of the content is.
Oh, so it's recycled wool.
So what they do is they shred up knitwear, unwanted knitwear, and then they process it and kind of re-spin it and make it into new yarn. And I have no idea how they get a consistency in colour. I've seen like the piles of knitwear that they have.
Right.
So they must have a way of kind of blending the colours.
It's lovely. Oh, how special.
So, I mean, I'd love to do loads of yarn, but I don't have the capacity to do it, really, because you need quite a lot of space and it's a huge investment because you have to...
Sure.
You know, if you think of what you have to... all the different colours, all the different weights.
Sure.
So I have tried this, but I like the fact that it's kind of recycled and local. So,
and it's local, Oh, so awesome. Well, thank you for showing me around. Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!